Fear of abandonment, the why of things, part 7 of 15. Most people in healthy relationships trust that distance or conflict won't lead to abandonment. When someone constantly fears being left and reacts to that fear in extreme ways, it can be difficult to navigate and understand. Fear of abandonment is a core issue for many individuals with cluster B traits, and it can drive a range of destructive behaviors. This fear often leads to patterns of clinging to relationships or pushing people away or engaging in dramatic actions to prevent perceived rejection. It's important to recognize that while this fear can feel irrational from the outside, for the person experiencing it, it's deeply rooted in emotional pain, insecurity, and past trauma. What it is: an overwhelming fear that loved ones will leave, abandon, or reject them. This fear can manifest in unhealthy ways, including extreme emotional reactions, attempts to control the relationship, or self-sabotaging behaviors to preemptively end relationships before they feel abandoned. What it isn't: normal concern about losing a relationship due to conflicts or disagreements. While everyone experiences fear of rejection at some level, the fear of abandonment in cluster B individuals is excessive, persistent, and often based on imagined or exaggerated scenarios. Why these people fear abandonment. The fear of abandonment stems from deep-seated emotional wounds and insecurity. The person often feels unworthy of love or attention, so any sign of disconnection triggers panic. Let's explore how this fear manifests in different cluster B disorders. IDD, Impulsive Disregard Disorder, or ASPD. Although individuals with IDD may appear indifferent or even dismissive, they can experience a hidden fear of abandonment. This fear can manifest in attempts to maintain control over the relationship through manipulation, isolation, or impulsive behaviors. Rather than appearing needy or anxious, they might preemptively abandon others or sabotage relationships to avoid the vulnerability of being left. Their fear of abandonment is often masked by a facade of emotional detachment or power. ESFD, Extreme Self-Focused Disorder, or NPD. For those with ESFD, fear of abandonment is intricately tied to their need for admiration and validation. They may fear losing their supply of attention and adoration, which can make them behave in controlling or manipulative ways to keep people close. If they sense that someone might be losing interest or challenging their sense of superiority, they may discard that person first to avoid feeling abandoned themselves. They need constant reinforcement of their worth, and any perceived threat to that can cause them to lash out or cling tightly. So for example, with the last one, after she said she needed space, I woke up at like 2 a.m. Obviously, with that emotional codependence, I was feeling like she was pulling away. And especially with what I'd seen, I was afraid that that clap on the back and everything that happened afterwards with what she was going through and what she was feeling and the conversation that we had would lead to her pulling away needlessly, right? So we had met on Field. She had matched me first. It was the only time I had gotten on a dating app actually looking for something real. And I laid all of that out in my profile and laid out that I had lost my partner, the whole 9 yards, said that I knew that I wouldn't be able to find someone like that again. And I wasn't looking for someone to replace her. I was looking for someone to share my life with, since I was very fortunate enough to be able to retire at 39 and have my house built and all of that stuff. So I was looking for someone to share my life with, right? Because it's much easier for me to be alone than it is in relationships. It takes a lot of work for me to be in a relationship. But I also know that if you want to maximize fulfillment, there's an 85-year study that's going on. It's a longitudinal study. To maximize human happiness, you need solid connections. That's friendships, family, and romantic partners. That is how you maximize your happiness and live longer. And the research is showing this. So anyways, I got back on the Field dating app. I had not deleted my profile because I kind of suspected that she was a little bit fearful about that stuff. So I left my profile up. You can see how many days it had been since the person was on there. So I started getting in my head and I went on there, and sure enough, she had been on there that day. So I screenshotted a video of it and I sent it to her friends, 4 people that I thought were her friends. And I sent it to her, obviously, because I wanted to be open and transparent. And I was hoping against hope that her friends would come back and say, this is crazy. You're just imagining things, like, this is fine. Their silence was deafening and telling. And of course, she went into rage mode, narcissistic rage mode. and abandoned me. And like I said, used the excuse that she was afraid that I was going to beat her up someday, which is insane. Her excuse for being back on the dating app was that she was rereading our texts. And I have 2 sisters. I reached out to them. I was like, is this a plausible excuse? Is this a plausible reason? And they both came back and they were like, no, if you want to save texts from someone on a dating app, you screenshot them so that you can read them later, so that you can reground yourself. So there you have it. It's a perfect example. So she was afraid that because I saw that, I would abandon her, and she preemptively did that first, which is a good thing because I would have spent my life with that person. Probably would have eventually woken up to what was going on once my temporary emotional codependence was healed through therapy. But I am the kind of person that when things are going wrong in relationship, I double down, I try harder, and I'm more committed to making the relationship work, which is something that I'm working on having a better balance of, because obviously you can do that to your detriment. So anyways, moving on. EID, Emotional Intensity Disorder, or BPD. Fear of abandonment is perhaps most pronounced in those with EID. Their emotions can swing from intense closeness and dependence to sudden panic and rage when they fear being left. This fear often leads to behaviors like clinging, checking it obsessively, or testing their partner's loyalty through dramatic gestures. They may also push people away in a defensive attempt to protect themselves from the inevitable rejection they fear. Their unstable self-image compounds this fear, making relationships feel like constant emotional tightropes. DASD, Dramatic Attention Seeking Disorder, or HPD. Individuals with DASD may fear abandonment because it means losing the attention and validation they thrive on. They may engage in dramatic actions, whether positive, love bombing, or negative, creating conflict, to keep others focused on them. The idea of being forgotten or ignored can trigger impulsive, attention-seeking behaviors, sometimes leading them to manipulate situations to regain the spotlight. Their fear of abandonment is not necessarily about losing love, but about losing the admiration and validation they crave. And again, a normal, healthy individual will not be getting back on a dating app when they're committed to making the relationship work. They won't get back on a dating app to see what else is out there, right? To see if they can monkey branch to someone else, and they'll stay with you if they can't. That is not normal human behavior. That is someone that has issues, and you need to bounce if that happens, because screw those people. You don't want someone that's not loyal in your life. The impact of fear of abandonment. Living with someone who has a deep fear of abandonment can feel exhausting and overwhelming. Their constant need for reassurance, combined with unpredictable emotional reactions, can make relationships unstable and volatile. This fear can create a push-pull dynamic in relationships where the individual alternates between intense closeness and pushing others away to avoid the pain of potential rejection. The emotional toll on partners or friends can be immense, leading to feelings of guilt, frustration, and confusion. For the person experiencing this fear, the thought of being abandoned can feel like an existential threat. Their emotional reactions are often disproportionate to the situation, and they may act impulsively to prevent the perceived abandonment, even if their actions actually push others away. This creates a vicious cycle where the fear of abandonment leads to behaviors that can sabotage the very relationships they're trying to protect. Protecting yourself. If you're involved with someone who has a deep fear of abandonment, it is important to set clear boundaries around emotional dependency. While it's natural to offer reassurance and support, you cannot be responsible for managing their fear. Encourage healthy communication and emotional regulation, but recognize when the behavior becomes harmful to your own well-being. It's also important to be aware that their fear may lead to manipulative tactics designed to keep you close, so maintaining a strong sense of self and clear limits is crucial.